Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Gargi Rao. This is the show to start your day with as we bring you all the news you need to follow.
Numbers the tragic news with the fire in Secunderabad. Let's first take a look at the headlines.
8 people are killed, several trapped in the Secunderabad. The fire broke out at the Ruby Lodge near the Secunderabad station. It may have started in an EV showroom below the lodge.
Indian and Chinese soldiers have disengaged from the Gogra hot springs area of eastern Ladakh, which will allow for a possible meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping at the SCO summit.
After the devastating floods in eastern Bengaluru, now an anti-encroachment drive by the municipality to clear storm drains, but an apartment complex may be demolished. Where will we go, say the residents?
It's Arvind Kejriwal versus Gujarat police. The Delhi Chief Minister was stopped by the police from visiting an auto rickshaw driver's house in Ahmedabad, citing security concerns. After a disagreement, later was allowed to travel to the auto driver's house.
Comedian Kunal Kamra, whose show got cancelled after threats from right-wing groups, tells NDTV in an exclusive interview that the artist fraternity is working under fear, which is never good for any art form. Alright, so let's get you the latest from Secunderabad. And 8 people have died after a massive blaze erupted in an e-bike showroom in Secunderabad. According to the police, several others received burn injuries due to the fire, which spread to a lodge on the upper floor of the building.
The incident was reported late on Monday. Meanwhile, several fire tenders were seen at the spot battling to douse off those flames. Many e-bikes were gutted in the fire. The injured were rushed to Gandhi Hospital and other nearby private hospitals. Most of the victims died of suffocation as thick plumes of smoke caught the guests unaware in this Ruby Lodge. Panic-stricken inmates tried to escape but were trapped in the rooms.
In fact, some people even jumped from their windows. Let's just listen into what the Home Minister of Telangana had to say and the police.
जो भी हो सका हमारा फायर डिपार्टमेंट द्वारा చాలా సహాయత చేసి సపోర్ట్ చేశారు మరి ఫైర్ అంటే ఫైర్ జరగలేదు కొంచెం ధుమా ఎక్కువ వచ్చింది దమ్ము వస్తుంది చాలా ఇన్సిడెంట్ జరిగింది చాలా సీరియస్లీ ఇన్సిడెంట్ జరిగింది చాలా మంది అంటే శ్వాస లేకుండా హాస్పిటల్ వెళ్తున్నారు ఎంతమంది చనిపోయినా ఎంతమంది రికవర్ చేస్తే ఇప్పటివరకు ఎంతమంది చనిపోయారు ఇంకా 4-5 మెంబర్స్ చెప్తున్నారు ఇప్పుడు హాస్పిటల్ పోయిన తర్వాత ఇక్కడ వస్తుంది. థ్యాంక్ యూ.
Unfortunately, those staying on the first and second floor were overpowered by the smoke. The smoke occupied the entire corridors, and when they came out of their rooms, they got stuck in that. And the maximum casualties are there in the first and second floor, about 6 of them. The remaining have managed to jump out of the windows or were rescued by locals who went in along with our Inspector Anjaneyulu. Others locals also went into the building. They dared to go in and rescue quite a few of them. Then the fire tender and the fire ladders also rescued a few others.
Well, let's go across to Uma for more on this. And Uma, do we know how this fire started? And very, very tragic. 8 people dead, people even having to jump from their windows to save themselves.
Gargi, the building, the lodge is in fact on the higher floors of this building, in which the basement has this showroom. And the electric vehicles are there. I spoke to the DCP North, who says that they, as of now, suspect that there could have been a case of a short circuit after the charging of the electric vehicles, and that could be the source of the fire itself. Fire personnel saying that it was more the smoke than the fire that became a big disaster, like the Police Commissioner C.V. Anand was just explaining. In fact, very, very quickly the smoke spread through the the first and second floors, and that's why the maximum casualties, in fact, happened in the first and second floors. But as soon as the short circuit happened, obviously the current went off and it was dark, and it was very difficult for people to find even the magic kind of keys which help open the doors in these kind of hotels, in all hotels that the system that operates. And therefore they got trapped in their rooms, and the fire engulfed them, and very soon it does happen that people lose consciousness and are not able to operate, run through the fire or find a fire trap exit through which they could get out of the building. This is in fact located very near the Secunderabad station, and as we can see in the visuals as well, it's a very crowded area, buildings right next to it, and there is it's a busy area in fact, and even getting access for the fire personnel who did reach early was a little difficult in the circumstances, and that's why the fire cranes, the fire ladders were used in fact to rescue. And yes, locals also played a very big part in trying to get into the hotel in fact, and they found people unconscious on the corridors. We are told from where they took out people, rescued them. As many as 25 people are suspected to have been residing at that hotel. That's what the registers from the breakfast time at the hotel seem to suggest, that there are 25 residents in the hotel. All of them possibly outsiders from who had come in on some kind of a business visit. Among those dead, also a woman. Right now, the full identification of who the victims were is not yet clear. The investigation on to find out if it was the electric vehicle charging that in fact caused the fire. And also the fire personnel saying that the water sprinkler system during a fire, that did not seem to have come on. Why that did not happen, that is also something that will be investigated. As of now, 8 people in hospital, some of them we are told in a serious condition. They are also trying to locate whether there were other people who went to private hospitals who may have escaped the police own investigation because this fire happened late in the night. Back to you.
Right, Uma Sudhi, they're reporting on this incident that's taken place in Secunderabad late last night on Monday. 8 people have died, and like Uma was reporting, 25 people were staying in that lodge and they have been rushed to nearby hospitals.
Moving on to other news now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be in Uzbekistan later this week to attend the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russia's Vladimir Putin will also attend. The SCO summit comes at a time of widening rift and tensions over the Russia-Ukraine war and India's border disputes with China.
Absolutely, Gargi. The leaders are expected to review the grouping's activities over the past 2 decades and discuss the prospects of multilateral cooperation. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also likely to hold a few bilateral meetings on the sidelines of the summit, which will be held in the Uzbek city of Samarkand, a stop on the ancient Silk Road.
Now, important news coming ahead of this summit. India and China have completed the disengagement in the Gogra hot springs in Ladakh. That is, Indian and Chinese soldiers on Monday disengaged from patrol point 15 in Gogra hot springs, with the process involving frontline troops moving back to rear locations, and a joint verification to assess the full implementation of the disengagement will follow. So this is a very key development ahead of that possible meeting, a possible bilateral between Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi at the SCO.
It's an important summit in which all the member countries plus some other observer countries and dialogue partners are participating. Common challenges in the region, growing economic partnership, taking coordinating action in fields of development partnership, other kinds of issues which can provide a solution to the region, environmental challenges, etc., etc. And of course there are issues which are global issues which are discussed. It is expected that the Shanghai Cooperation Summit this year will also discuss this, and it's the people would be looking with great expectations what comes out of the summit.
The much talked about disengagement in the area is now in fact over. The disengagement comes just a couple of days before the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting, which takes place in Samarkand in Uzbekistan. It's a meeting being attended by President Xi of China and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The big question, will the disengagement in Gogra Hot Spring pave the way for a meeting of the two leaders? The last face-to-face meeting between Modi and Xi was in November 2019 in Brazil. The Prime Minister is expected to be in Samarkand between the 14th and the 16th of this month.
Switching tracks now, Aam Aadmi Party's national convener and Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal on Monday had dinner at an auto rickshaw driver's home in Ahmedabad. But the event was preceded by high drama after Gujarat police briefly stopped Kejriwal from travelling in the auto, citing security concerns, Gargi. So it's right, Aam Aadmi Party versus the Gujarat police, and these are the visuals of last night.
That's right, where Arvind Kejriwal was actually stopped by the police citing security concerns. Now, earlier, Kejriwal had accepted the auto rickshaw driver's invitation for dinner at his home in Ahmedabad, and he left his hotel around 7:30. He planned to reach the driver's house in his auto, but the police then stopped him, which led to this heated argument. He was later allowed to travel to the house. A police official sat beside the auto rickshaw driver while two police cars escorted the three-wheeler. So this happening yesterday evening. Remember, earlier on, there were accusations by the Aam Aadmi Party that the police had visited their office in Ahmedabad, something the police officially denied. So there you can see Arvind Kejriwal after having sorted that matter out on his way to dinner.
Right, Arvind Kejriwal totally reaching out to the Aam Aadmi in Gujarat. He's obviously also offered free electricity, 300 units, free medical amenities as well. So they're reaching out to the Aam Aadmi and they're going for dinner to that auto rickshaw driver's house.
All right, and some other news from Bengaluru, and Karnataka Congress workers have launched a unique campaign against BJP MP Tejashwi Surya of delivering masala dosas to him through Dunzo, a super quick delivery app. And this has taken a new turn with both the Congress and BJP MP indulging in a war of words on social media. So a little bit of a silly controversy, and especially after Tejashwi Surya was seen eating dosas at the time of the Bengaluru floods recently.
While the Congress has claimed that they delivered 10 different set of masala dosas. So Gargi, those are the dosas, those visuals coming out, 10 different kind of masala dosas through Dunzo to BJP MP Tejashwi Surya's residence. The latter has come under severe criticism for relishing on dosas when Bengaluru was reeling under floods, like you mentioned. There also took swipes at the Congress, saying that he hadn't received even a single dosa and that the Congress has scammed the dosas as well.
All right, so Congress sending dosas to Tejashwi Surya. He claimed he never got them, and he said this is just like the Congress and they've scammed the dosas, while the Congress then hit back and said that the government in Karnataka known for 40% corruption, but now we got to know 100% corruption. So bit of a back and forth there. But staying with news of Bengaluru and the aftermath of the terrible floods that were witnessed in eastern Bengaluru a week ago when heavy rain hit the Silicon capital. Now Gopalan International School was inundated, but on Monday an excavator machine was at work clawing through the cricket pitch in the school.
Right, Gargi, the Bengaluru civic body has identified around 700 encroachments on the stormwater drains across the city, and the officers on ground are ensuring encroachments are cleared soon. But citizens are questioning how these constructions were cleared in the first place.
A JCB at work at East Bengaluru's Gopalan International School in Mahadevpura that was inundated last week. The school, built 12 years ago, reportedly encroached a stormwater drain that was developed into a cricket pitch.
I once again reiterate that we have not encroached on this Rajikal way or on the stormwater drain. This building and this entire ground of Gopalan Foundation came up in 2008. And we have left it as it is, as raw ground. The encroachment, as you see, is by those apartment complex that you can see. Yeah. That is the main reason there, Shrija.
Just about 100 meters from the school's compound wall is Mahavir Apartments, home to 250 families. This has also been marked out as an encroachment. Residents say they are paying the price for an alleged unholy nexus between builders and officials.
You are the senior engineer. Did you give permission or not? Knowing fully well this is the land of stormwater drain. How did you give it?
So there is a nexus.
There's no question of it. It is there.
If government wants to demolish, let us provide them alternative accommodation.
The civic body has identified at least 700 encroachments on stormwater drains across Bengaluru, from residential to commercial structures.
Every encroachment, whether high-profile persons have been done or some ordinary citizens have done. We'll see and ensure that it
Nobody
is
will be
completed.
spared.
Yes, madam.
Now, the markings have been already done by the BBMP. They also say that they will ensure that they're going to raise that particular apartment. But we have to wait and see if the civic body will do so, because the apartment owners say that they will move the court.
And with that, we're slipping into a very short break. What's coming up next, Gargi?
That's right. Coming up on the other side, a doctor who ran. He was stuck in a traffic jam, but then he ran to make it in time for the operation he was to perform. We'll get you those details. Welcome back. A Bengaluru doctor making a run for it to beat the horrendous city traffic in order to save his patient's life has gone viral. Rather, to conduct that operation is Dr. Govind Nandkumar, a gastroenterology surgeon at Manipal Hospitals.
Right, Gargi, the doctor was stuck in a jam, and when he realized it wasn't going anywhere, he left his car, ran 3 kilometers in order to reach a patient in time for a crucial surgery. He posted a short clip of that run on his Instagram handle.
That's
Gargi.
quite a lot of dedication there. Good to see a dedicated doctor. Our colleague Shrija spoke with him.
Firstly, we saw what really happened on 30th of August. But again, things really didn't, seem to get any better, because we continue to see the intensity of the rain increase. But for you as a doctor, we have seen how even techies wade through. We have seen several employees wade through the water and go. But for you as a doctor, what do you really have to talk about the kind of traffic that the city witnesses? Because I clearly heard you talk about, we see traffic in New York, you see traffic in LA. But the city of Bengaluru that we talk about, it's a quaint little city that, of course, emerged and evolved into a bustling one. But don't you think it's really got to worse?
Certainly. I mean, I think the difference between Bangalore and any other city in the world is that the traffic can be very disorganized. The traffic is bad, but it can be disorganized. And then we sometimes deal with difficult infrastructure or limited infrastructure that we have. But, sometimes it hinders our commute. I mean, sometimes patients wait. Sometimes I have to tell them, like, look, I'm delayed by half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe longer. And sometimes you don't know when you're going to reach the other end of the city. Occasionally I've had to, even reaching Yeshwantpur or Hebbal, get off the flyover or, and just walk across. I'm very comfortable walking, and I'm happy to walk because it puts in those number of steps in a day. But even doing that is sometimes challenging because you don't have a walkway in many parts of the city. Even if you want to walk, you cannot walk safely or cross the road safely. Right. So I think, we need a little bit of help in terms of infrastructure.
And moving on now to more news. Ganesh laddus in Hyderabad seem to be outdoing each other this festive season. The famous Balapur laddu in the old city area of Hyderabad that started the tradition of laddu auctions almost 3 decades ago got sold for 24 lakhs and 60,000 rupees 3 days ago, Gargi.
That's right. And then came the turn of the Marakatha Shri Lakshmi Ganpati Utsav Pandal Laddu that fetched nearly 46 lakh rupees. That's absolutely incredible. Uma Sudhir brings us this report.
This Ganesh Laddu was bought for nearly 61 lakh rupees. Residents of a gated community in Hyderabad bought the Laddu, hoping to use it to support the less fortunate. Interestingly, not all of them are Hindus. They belong to different religious communities, but say humanity is the bigger religion.
100 people నిన్న వచ్చారు. అందరూ ఒక సేవా భావంతో వచ్చారు. ఎంతైనా హెల్ప్ చేయొచ్చు. అండ్ ఈ కలెక్ట్ అయిన అన్ని డబ్బు మన ఒకటి ఆర్విద్య చారిటబుల్ ట్రస్ట్ ఉంది. ఇట్స్ రిజిస్టర్డ్ బాడీ. ఈ ట్రస్ట్ ద్వారా మేము అరౌండ్ 17 NGOస్కి సపోర్ట్ చేస్తాం. అలాగే ఒక 120 స్కూల్ స్టూడెంట్స్ స్కూల్ ఫీజు ఇస్తాం. మెడికల్ సపోర్ట్ ఇస్తాం.
In another part of Hyderabad, Venkat Rao and Geeta Priya bought the Ganesh Laddu at the Maragada Sri Lakshmi Ganapati Utsav Mandal for 44,99,999, making it the highest individual bid for a Laddu, not just in the twin cities of Hyderabad and Secunderabad, but across the Telugu states. The Balapur Ganesh Laddu that started the tradition of Laddu auction in 1994 for 450 rupees went this year for 24,60,000 rupees and was bought by a local farmer and realtor. In Hyderabad, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
In other news, in an exclusive interview, comedian Kunal Kamra, whose show later this month got cancelled after threats from right-wing groups, has told NDTV in an interview today that the artist fraternity is working under fear.
That's right, Gargi. In fact, he added, which is never good for any art form. He also spoke to our colleague Aridhi Razdan about how everybody from Bollywood to comedians, everybody is operating in some kind of fear or the other. Listen in.
Kunal, thanks for being with us. Your show in Gurgaon was just cancelled after the VHP protested, calling you anti-Hindu. They say that you mock Hindu deities. What exactly did the club communicate to you when they pulled out?
I found out as usual through the media. So the club didn't communicate anything with me, but I don't hold them responsible in any case because the club has to run, it has to be a profitable business venture. So I understand why they cancelled my show. 6 people would have turned up there, they would have said that he says these things, they would have made some claims. And the club owner must be like, I don't want anything after the show happens, you're going to go back on Monday, back to your city, but this club has to stay here. It's a stationary asset. So I don't blame them to cancel the show. I think if they felt threatened, they cancelled the show.
But that's quite something, that a bunch of people can threaten violence. As you said, there were hundreds more that actually bought tickets to your show.
Yeah, but they didn't turn up before the show. They would turn up on the show. So the thing is that I totally get how, the club owner must have felt that this is not a good business move. Clubs come to comedy because the tech rider is very small, a comedian just needs a mic. And if you see the timing also that we book the clubs for, it's between 5 o'clock and 9 o'clock because that time the audiences of club which comes for music and drinking are mostly later in their night. So it makes great business sense to have comedy in the early evening time. To have comedy in early evening. So it's a business call to have comedy because it's profitable. But if someone comes and threatens to break the venue or do something like that, then it's not profitable.
But those who criticize you say that your right to free speech does not include the right to offend a faith. What is your response to that?
Constitution. The right to be offended is an emotion. But there are clear-cut mentions in our constitution to what amounts to free speech, what amounts to religious bigotry, what amounts to inciting violence. There is a court to decide.
Right.
Unless VP has replaced the judiciary, that they will decide that this is anti-Hindu and then there will be no show happening.
But you also had the situation with a fellow comedian, Munawar Farooqi, whose 2 shows in Bangalore were recently cancelled. Is it worrying now for you that this is happening very frequently and that this is being normalized?
No, not really, because worrying won't help. So that will just be an added thing that I'll do to myself. So I've stopped worrying about it. I just feel that I would never put my audience safety at risk. For example, I had a show in Jaipur and Dehradun, which I myself cancelled because, it just takes 2 people to kind of create an unrest. There can be a pregnant woman, there can be a family who's just come with a 1-year-old to watch the show. So I can't put my audience at risk. And at the same time, I cannot use state machinery like police or anything of that sort for a comedy show because that's not their job. This is clearly, not an essential in any way. So I'm pretty mindful about these things happening and hopefully they'll stop happening because as far as I know, I've not said anything anti-Hindu. And if I have said something, they should get that thing into discussion instead of just labeling it that. Hence, I replied to them saying, why don't you all tell me what I've said is anti-Hindu, and I'll respond on that thing, on that particular joke, on that particular video.
But do you think that as a result of all of this, the space for genuine comedy is shrinking as a result?
I mean, fear is never good for any art form. Like, fear will never propel an art form to get something better. And as you can see, everybody from Bollywood to comedians to OTT platforms, everybody is operating in some fear. And they're just letting, good ideas, good instinctive sort of, spontaneity. The spontaneity that an art form has, it's totally killed because of this sort of fear. That your show may be cancelled, you may not be commercially viable, you may be sitting at home. All of these things are legitimate.
Finally, Kunal Kamra, you wrote an open letter to the VHP after they got your show cancelled in Gurgaon, and you dared them to condemn Nathuram Godse. Did you get any response?
No, not yet. I don't think they can condemn Nathuram Godse. And I did in that letter say that I'm Hindu, and I'm with great pride say Jai Sitaram and Jai Shri Radha Krishna. No problem. But can you say Godse Murkabad? And they've not responded on it. I was actually scared. What if they respond with Godse Amar Rahe, which they do every day on Twitter on 2nd October. So that is another part of it. And the sad part is that the authorities, the respected DC, the commissioner, the police authorities should understand that they are following directives of people who are divided on who Nathuram Godse was. This is who you are entertaining. So I just wanted to point that out also.
Well, Kunal Kamra, thanks very much for joining us. Let's hope you are able to perform somewhere in the near future. Thank you for being with us.
Gargi, Qatar is going to be hosting the FIFA World Cup this year. It will be a World Cup of many firsts, including the first in the Middle East.
That's right. And the final test of the World Cup final venue, the Lusail Stadium, got completed on the weekend in the countdown to the World Cup. And through the World Cup, Qatar is also aiming to establish itself as a global tourism and sporting hotspot. NDTV's Priyanshi Sharma reports.
Tiny Qatar is all geared up for the biggest football spectacle in the world. In just about 70 days, Qatar will kick off the FIFA World Cup 2022 that's being held in a Middle Eastern country for the first time ever.
وتشوفها بعيونك وتفرح فيها من قلبك.
World Cup will be held from November 20th to December 18th, and it will have 32 teams participating. The country is saying that they have enough to accommodate more than 1.3 million people that are being expected to attend this event. Remember, the population of the country is just around 2.9 million. So the people expected to come for the FIFA World Cup are 1/3 of the country's entire population. While the heat will be literally on during the FIFA matches, the fans don't have to sweat over the soaring temperatures in the desert country, thanks to these perforated seats at the stadiums that ensure cool air flowing under each of the thousands of seats.
In regards to the stadiums, it's part of our development towards sports, to have these facilities. We're planning to host many sport events in the future, and we're still hoping to host the Olympics in the years to come.
Addressing the elephant in the room, that's Qatar's image of a conservative society, the Supreme Committee warned against rumors. It insists that the World Cup will be like any other, with alcohol being served before and after matches, even though it's banned publicly in Qatar.
How to show people, the Arab countries, how they are living and their food, their lifestyle. So inshallah we can tell the world about our lives. We are not looking about money. We are looking about what we will have later. How the people, they will look to our country in a good way, inshallah.
The final test of the FIFA World Cup final venue, the Lusail Stadium, is now complete. With just over 2 months left for the FIFA World Cup here in Qatar, Qatar and Qataris are getting ready to host more than 1.3 million soccer fans from across the world. Qatar is viewing this as an opportunity to promote and establish the Qatar tourism and the Arabic culture at a global stage. In Qatar, this is Priyanshi Sharma for NDTV.